I am so excited for today's episode. I have Lex Nevin from Lala. And I know you already know about her, but if you don't know about her, let's just say that she took the smiley face and made it freaking awesome. What else did you take and make awesome? Maybe like a lightning bolt, maybe self-empowerment, maybe power, like so many things I could say about Lexi, and I have had the honor of working alongside her for a couple of years now, which has been honestly one of the greatest privileges that I've experienced in my work, and watching her grow this online boutique. And, we both live in Utah, and let's just say there are a lot of entrepreneurs. There are a lot of women-owned like boutiques, which I love and I think is so awesome. But Lexi has taken Dress and Lala from an awesome boutique to literally a brand that is, I was talking to her before we started, and I was like, this isn't just like a brand. This is going to be forever. Like, this will be like I don't want to say like Kate Spade comes to my mind, just like a brand that's going to be around for generations and generations. And I always loved how much you put specific, like you talk to your customers, like they know why they're buying from you, right? Like that's her brand messaging is better than any that I've seen, really. And she's also, well, we got to say this, like she is the cutest little boy I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Ozzy. How old is he now?
He's 2.5. Yeah.
He's 2.5, the cutest thing. Oh my gosh. And then your husband, Matt, also works with you in Dress and Lala. And what else do the listeners need to know about you that maybe I didn't share?
Thank you so much. I just it's just all wild to me, and it's like such a blur of how I got here, But those are nice words. Yeah, so Lala is turning 6 in February. And honestly, my goal was always just like get to year 5, because there's like that statistic that's like, I think it's 85 or 90% of businesses don't make it to year 5. And if you do make it to year 5, you're most likely going to be able to last long term or whatever. So I just started to remember, like, just make it to year 5, just make it to year 5. So the fact that I'm like almost at year 6, I'm like, we got this,
You want to hear something really funny about a year 5 thing? So one time I ran into a kid from high school, and so my print shop's like 17 years old now, but I ran into him a few years ago, and he's like, oh, like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I have a print shop. And he had just graduated at some point from like a master's in business or whatever. And he's like, okay, well, you know that most businesses fail within the first 5 years. And I was like,
that's so rude.
Well, he was just like trying to like, pump me up, like it's okay. And I was like, oh, yeah. Thanks. I'm like, yeah, it's about 15 years old now. So I think we're okay. But that's, I love that you had that statistic in your brain though, that you were like, I'm going to make it past year 5. And then I know I've made it.
I don't know if I've exhaled yet. I'm just like still running, but it's okay. Yeah. Speaking of what you just said though, that's like such a thing with like women-owned businesses. Like even to this day, my extended family or like one of Matt's friends or something, they'll be like, how is Lexi's little online shop doing? Or like, how's her little boutique? Or like I'll see someone and they'll be like, I've been meaning to buy something. Like, how's it going? And I'm like, you're good. Like, it's just so funny. Like, who says that to a guy when they start a business? Like, how's it your little thing going? But I kind of like the like mystery of it, like
totally.
Anyways, so about me, Matt. So my husband was in school when I started Lala, and he was gonna be a PA, and we had plans and all this stuff. I honestly never thought Lala would be this big. But so when I had Ozzy almost 2.5 years ago, it was like right in the middle of COVID, and it was just like such a crazy time. Because obviously I was a first-time mom, but then, it was COVID and I'm trying to like run this business and figure out what's happening. And anyways, I ended up talking Matt into, he had like paternity leave, and I just kept being like, please, like, don't you just want to stay? You want to quit your job, whatever. And he was like, no, like I need to go back. And then on his first day back, he quit. And so he's been at Lala. Yeah, he's been at Lala ever since. And honestly, it's just like, it's so nice. Like Ozzy comes into the office with us. We're able to like switch back and forth, we switch days at the office. And anyways, so in that, like, I never I never thought about that, I guess, when I started business. I honestly never really like, I knew someday I'd be a mom, but it wasn't like, you know how some people like that's
Oh
their like
yeah.
goal. Like I never thought about that. So that's just been like a really, now that I am a mom and I realize how much I love being a mom and how much I love him, it's just such a cool part of what I've built, you know?
Well, I actually kind of like how you just explained it, is that it wasn't like maybe at the forefront of your mind, but honestly, I actually like the idea of kids and motherhood being a part of our life, but not
Your
us
life.
feeling like that's our life anymore, and because honestly, think about the experience that he gets to have living in this world with you guys, and he's a part of what you do. And I think that that's where such a disconnect happens in life, when it's not like who we are, it's what we do. So it's like you're a mom or you're a worker or whatever. But when you can find a way for all of it to just be what, who you are. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're a mom and you are a business owner and you're a wife and your husband's a dad and he's a father, but he's also like in this business with you. And so it's just kind of like, do you see how there's such a better
Yeah,
like flow to it?
it's so cool to be able to show your kids that you can be a person,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm sure if you ask your kids that, they'd be like, Chelsea, you're like the most multidimensional,
Mm,
like coolest mom in the world. So anyways, I totally think, and I think that's so inspiring for them. Like, and we obviously feel guilty. I still feel guilty all the time. When I leave and he's, doesn't want me to leave or whatever.
mhm.
But I think in the long run, it's so healthy and good for them.
It is good. And one time Ryan said to me a long time ago, he said, "How can I miss you if you're never gone?" And I actually think that there's something to that, even with our children, is that it's sometimes. The other day I was filling up the pepper or the salt, and Cohen's like, "Oh wow." He's 10, by the way. And he's like, "Oh wow, we've never gone through a whole thing of salt before." And I was like, "Oh, I always fill up the salt, and you just assume we've never run out with salt, or we've never ran out of the salt, but really."
Mom.
But it's like, how can I miss you if you're never gone? Because if we're always available and we're always switching out the salt, and they never know what the magic that's motherhood, right? Then it's like they're never going to miss
So
us. So
true.
I
Yeah.
think that there's something really good about them having little bits of separation just to miss you and to wish that you were home. So I love that.
Okay.
So
That's good.
yeah, right. And honestly, the
Good.
other the other part is that we are going to feel guilty no matter what about anything. But
Yeah.
honestly, I think that sometimes guilt is a really good teacher. But when it turns to like shame, then it's just a distraction from us being who we want to be. So I say let it go, right?
Yeah. I love
E-
that. So
Easier
true.
said than done, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so I met Lexi a few, like, well, I guess maybe close to 2018. Maybe was it like maybe a year after you started?
Well, we started printing shirts the year before COVID, right? Like we were
Right.
like, so it was like
Yes.
2019.
Yeah, 2019 in at a business retreat
Oh,
in.
yes.
Yeah, so we met before. We
We
met like
did.
maybe a year before we started printing together, but so we met and she was like actually pretty, you were pretty reserved. Are you a shy person naturally, or like more of an introvert? What would you call yourself?
I I'm not shy, but I don't know. I think that I don't know if you know about like human design. I'm a projector. So
Okay.
that kind of is like
Mm,
I don't beg people to like come into my bubble. I wait to be invited, and like it's also kind of like I don't know, a whole like ego thing probably.
okay. Yeah, I
But I
could see
also
what you
think it's
mean.
like a confidence thing, like just a yeah, just like a quiet like I know what I'm doing, and
Hmm.
and I'm not like gonna step into a place and like whatever. So I love talking about it, and if people ask me, I'll share and whatever. But I think I'm just like confident in who I am, as dumb as that
Totally.
sounds, like
No, that's not dumb at
that
all.
I don't have to go in and like take over the whole room.
I left you feeling super curious. I wanted to know more. And I actually love that when I meet someone and it feels like there's like a connection, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to know more. I want to know more about this person and I want to know
Yeah.
more about their business. I want to, and you probably get a lot of people who are like, want to pick your brain or want to, like
Yeah. Let's go to
just
lunch.
yeah, let's go to lunch. But I think part of it is because you are like, I think steady and secure, those are two words that come to mind. And have you always been like this your entire life?
I mean, like for the most part, but that doesn't mean that I guarantee that day that we met, we were at like a business retreat in Palm Springs. And I remember meeting up with you guys, and you all were a little older than me and way more successful. At that point, you had all been doing it for a while, your businesses and stuff. And so I totally remember like feeling anxious, like all these like
Interesting.
cool ladies, you know. But yeah, I mean, like, I think like there's just a fine line of being confident and then like I don't know, the anxious part is it's always been a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you can't let it mean anything, you know.
No,
So
absolutely. No, absolutely. And honestly, sometimes I think that it's like when we're feeling anxious about something, or if you're watching someone and you feel like, they have something. But I think that's a good indicator of like, oh, I want more success. I also do think something that's interesting to me is that the job that I was doing at that point, that where we met, it was like very outward. Like it was one of the, you have this mystery in your business a little bit. There's no mystery if it's successful or not at this point, but I'm just saying like there are people, and especially with social media and all of these things, where it can look crazy wildly successful, and
yeah,
then who knows what's actually going on, and so I actually just think how cool it is to be in a place where you're having conversation with like-minded women and you're being inspired by each other, but always also like we don't have to assume that they are more successful, because I guarantee half of the people sitting there that you might have imagined were being more successful than you at that time were actually not, if we're talking like financially, or you know what I mean, or even just like in clarity of their business. So I would just encourage people who are listening to not even make those assumptions, but just be in the moment when you get it and have those good conversations and be inspired by whatever someone can teach you.
totally. And I totally remember like feeling so inspired around all of you. And
Yeah,
I love hearing about people's businesses. I love when like there's someone that a new person that I can like look up to and like work towards being
totally.
like what did they call that? Your shoot, I can't remember, but there's like a name for it. They're your person that like inspires you or whatever. And
Yeah,
I love
it's not idol,
so
because idol is like someone you worship that you're not trying to be like, but I get what you're trying.
your expander, that's what it's called. So
Okay,
someone,
I love that word.
yeah, I love it too. It's like someone who they're doing well. They maybe have like things in their life like that that you admire or whatever, you know, but it's like they expand you and make you want to like
I love the idea of everyone having an expander. And also, when you were talking about an expander, I was wondering just how many people listening are like, you are actually an expander for them. Like you are proof of possibilities. That's usually what I call it, proof of possibilities. Instead of like comparison, it's like proof of possibility. I love the idea of making sure that you always have an expander, someone who is showing you what is possible for you.
yeah.
And so I think that's an awesome way to think about it. So when you think about the back in your life, do you have someone who was an expander for you that comes to mind, like maybe a first expander?
um I mean, like starting Lala, I feel like it was like the era of girl boss, you know? And it was
Mm-hmm.
like it was the era of girl boss and like hustling and all those like things that now people are like, is that actually healthy for us, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember like Sophia Amoruso,
Mm.
the author of Girl Boss, like I thought she was so cool. Like she had this really like modern, cool house in the Hollywood Hills. She had like 3 poodles. I have 4 wiener dogs. Like,
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that in your intro is how much you love animals.
oh my gosh, yeah, I do. Um, so I remember thinking she was just so cool, you know, and um it's not that I don't now, but like honestly, I don't follow her life anymore because I
Yeah.
think it's true. It's like you kind of outgrow someone and then you find someone new. And like, and it doesn't even have to, I don't know, you know, it could be a lot of different. I have like right now, something that's inspiring me a lot is I have a secret board on Pinterest I just made like last week that's just called Vision Board. And my friend Kinsey taught me that like when you're making a vision board, to not pin specific things you want, like you can, but to pin things that make you feel the way you want to feel.
I
So
love
that's
that
been
so much.
like
Yep.
I'll scroll through it sometimes and I'm like, yes, like this is the vibe. It's like reminding me kind of what, and there's pictures of like babies on there and G-Wagons and all sorts of different things, even just like girls drinking a green smoothie. But I'm like, it like puts me back in that. So that it's not a person, but I think I'm kind of in between expanders right now. So if you have a suggestion, please send them my way. But
you know way cooler people than me.
but yeah, I think there's lots of ways to, and I think that's like seriously such an underrated like conversation, because I still have it happen all the time where, people are maybe jealous of someone's success or intimidated, and instead of letting it inspire them and be proof of possibility, they turn it the opposite way. And
feels like defeat.
Yes, it's like, oh, like I can't do that. And then it kind of turns into like thinking they're annoying, or I don't know, like projecting on the person that's successful, when like that's not going to help you at all. Like I think a huge part of the reason that I am where I am today is because I've constantly like soaked up everyone's like, tips. Like when I first started Lala, I was listening to every business podcast. And then when I would listen to every podcast, I'd go to YouTube and like search up that person. And like, I was just soaking up all the information I could from everyone who inspired me. And I think just like staying humble about it and like letting it inspire you is so, so, so important.
Okay, there's so many fascinating points to this. So the first one, when you were saying like, I was paying attention to these people, I was listening to them, I was soaking them up. There is an energy exchange that happens when you tap into other people, right? Like you can draw energy and power and inspiration from other people just by learning about them, by reading from them, from listening to them. And if you're choosing for it to be that way, I actually even think about when we got on this call together, we haven't spent a lot of time like face to face or like in person.
A lot of texting. Yeah.
A ton of texting. But I was like, oh my gosh, there was such a constant energy exchange. It was like, I was always trying to tap into your creativity or your, and maybe you were doing the same to me. I don't know, but I'm like, holy cow, they're just being aware and noticing and learning from and listening to and watching, even if you're not in the room with a person or face to face, there is so much power in being inspired by and tapping into each other's energy. Right.
Yes. And so are you going to say if it's the opposite, does it like stop energy flow?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. 1,000,000%. And that's when it feels like defeat, like if someone else is successful or if someone else is, because, there's a lot of people that I would call expanders for me. Like right now, Jay Shetty is actually a huge expander for me because his whole mission is to like teach people and inspire people without them knowing that they're actually being taught or inspired. It's like, because people sometimes when they don't want to self-reflect, a lot of people they want to be entertained, right? Yes. They just want to be entertained. And so it's like, how can I entertain you with education, but not make you feel like you're in an education class or a self-reflection class, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm like, and I watch him and he was a monk for 4 years or something like that. And so he's like, I was a monk for 4 years. And now everyone's like so fascinated and wants to live by, like, learn from him. And then you think about, well, I've been alive and I've been a mom for this many years. I've been an entrepreneur for this many years. Like just stating who you are and owning that and the experience that you've had, something different, like something magical happens because people are like, oh, I should listen to you because now you're taking yourself seriously, right?
Yeah. And I have such a funny story about that. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but literally this is something I've been going through for probably the last year is like, I started Lala strictly as a boutique, which I'm like so grateful for. It's gotten to me where I am. But within the last few years, I've really stepped into designing my own pieces. Yes. And I'm currently changing to try to only sell originals and be a fashion brand, not a boutique.
Right.
So obviously I'm designing these clothes, like literally like ideas in my head, they're being put and made into these clothes. But for some reason, I have such an issue calling myself a fashion designer. Like I feel so much imposter syndrome around it. So much, like,
which I'm just sitting here not trying to like, yes, to me, that is hysterical. You said, I don't know if this is funny. I think that is hysterical because you're not just like even here's a basic white t-shirt designer, right? There's people who are fashion designers who literally make like a white t-shirt or a black t-shirt, or think about that.
I
Okay.
know.
Think
It's
about that for a second. So it's actually hysterical because look, if you're not out watching video, you would see behind Lexi, she has like rows of her own designs. And it is not just like, oh, here's a great
yeah.
shirt. It is like art.
You've never seen it before.
It is
Yeah.
art. It is like actually art. So yes, that's hysterical. So
Yeah.
okay, so this last year you've been trying to like lean into
Own,
this.
yeah, own that. And like, and it's even funny, like when I meet people at trade shows or conferences or whatever, and they ask what I do, it's funny because my best friend always kind of like is keeping like an eye when I answer that question to see what I say.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'll say things like, I own an online fashion brand or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm still honestly getting used to it, but I've started owning it more. I would say in the last 3 months, I'm owning it. Like I designed these clothes. I'm a designer.
Yes. I'm
And
gonna make
it's,
you a shirt that says that
yes,
fashion designer.
honestly, I would love that.
Okay,
But
great.
it's funny because I was just telling you before this call, like there's some things that are in the works. And literally since I started trying to step into that power
Yeah.
and like not feel shame or imposter syndrome about it, I still do a little bit, but it's gotten a lot better.
Have you ever heard that imposters don't have imposter syndrome?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it's literally like
Like
it's
if you were an imposter, you wouldn't have imposter syndrome. Like you are not an imposter, right?
so it's a good sign to have it sometimes.
Totally.
Means you're
Well,
not
yes. Yeah. It
psycho.
means that you're not, well, it means that you're not an imposter. It means that like you're aware, you're self-aware.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. Anyways, I've had some really cool opportunities pop up that like are blowing my mind. And like I think it just goes back to the energy exchange you were just talking about. It's like I was closing myself off
Mm-hmm.
potentially to these really cool, who knows, if it could happen sooner or not or whatever. But since I've opened myself up to that, it's like I've opened that flow for and the opportunities are like so cool. And I can't talk about it yet, but it's just interesting when you like step into your power and you own that, even if it's a little bit fake it till you make it, until
Totally.
but it's so powerful.
Well,
So
okay. So before we started talking or before we started recording, we were talking about the fact that, there are so many boutiques here in Utah. There's boutiques online, right? It doesn't even matter where people are anymore because we're all
yeah.
online.
Mhm.
And to start the business, you all kind of go to the same suppliers. You all kind of have the opportunity to buy the same wholesale and you get to charge whatever you want to charge, right? So there's like, that's a whole nother conversation. But you all kind of have the opportunity to create the same thing. And so what I notice is, and my observation of your brand is that you were very intentional and specific about what you wanted it to look like and feel like, and the message behind it and what you wanted the clothing pieces to make it feel like for the person who is wearing them.
Yes.
And it's easy to just buy what's on trend or what you think is the best sellers or what the people are showing you. But what was it like going, I'm not making my own clothing yet? Like this was when you were not designing all of your own pieces, but you're looking back and you're like, how did you choose the items to sell that still felt like if I were to have made them, this would be it?
Yeah, I feel like the first year I was really trying to figure out like how to do it and how to run this business, and you like, because there are so many local shops, which is like so cool, but I obviously I was following all of them in the beginning and seeing what they were doing, and they weren't even like my style really at all.
Right.
But it's like this thing where you would see, and I'm sure this still happens to people in the boutique world, but you see that someone else is selling this dress and they keep selling out, sold out, restocked, restocked, and you're like, oh, like if they keep selling out of it and restocking it, then I probably would too. And
Like
so
the people want it. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm not joking you. This happened one time, like I can remember exactly. I ordered this dress, wasn't really my style, kind of boho, kind of, I don't know, kind of like blandy, like that's not my style,
Yeah, totally. No.
And I bought a pack. So that's how it starts out in boutiques. You buy a pack, which is 6 pieces.
Too small, too medium, too large.
Yep, exactly. And I didn't sell them. Like they weren't selling. And like I was like, what? Because I mean, back then it was like I did have to like work to sell something, but it was just like I just remember hanging on to those dresses for so long. And I think I eventually like put them on sale or something. And But it's just funny because I look back on that first year and I was trying my best, but like I was just looking at what other people were doing and trying to chase that. And I
Even that visual that you just did right there, okay, so if you're not watching video, you're listening. So what she did was, I was just watching what everyone else was doing, and I was chasing, and her head was going from side to side to side to side to side. And I actually believe that that's exactly what happens when we are worrying about other people, is that our focus, our energy, our attention, like our success is side to side to side to side to side to side. But then when you stop and you say, like, this is what I want my messaging to be, this is what I want my brand to look like and to feel like, and we stay that way, there's balance, there's strength, there's like a foundation that is, and people understand, right?
Yes, and it's magnetic, because what happened is, like, after that first year and after I had kind of like, started coming into my own, like accepting that that wasn't my style, I remember having like a turning point where I was like, I don't even love this. Like I went to a trade show once and I had a consultant I had hired to help me, and she had pulled all my data and she put together this buying plan. And that first day I was working with her and we went through and it was 40 shirts, 30 pants, whatever. And it was like, we were like trying to check this list and get everything ordered for the upcoming season. And I went back to the hotel that night and I had like a full-blown anxiety attack, which like isn't super common for me. Like couldn't breathe, was crying like so hard. And I was like, what's going on? Like, why am I feeling this way? And like, it's so dramatic, and I realized, I'm like, it's because I feel so out of alignment. Like I don't like anything I bought today. And it was stressing me out. It was so much money and I hated everything. Like nothing was exciting to me.
And can we just tell people that when your body is having a physical response like that, it is 100% screaming at you. Like, listen to yourself.
Yep. And so I ended up texting her that night and I was like, I just have to be honest, I don't feel good about this. I'm having an anxiety attack. And so she was super awesome. And we met the next morning and redid everything, canceled all those orders. But that was a huge turning point for me, because I was like, if I don't like something, why would I expect other people to buy it from me? And it went from like, hey, I'm selling this and it's $40 and it's cool, like you should buy it, to being like, you guys, like, I'm obsessed with this shirt. I don't know if I have enough, but like anyone who can get it needs to get it, because it's like telling your friends about a movie you saw. The selling switches so quick. It's like, when you're telling a friend about a movie you love, you're not selling, you don't get anything.
You're like, of course I'm going to tell you.
Yes. And you're like, you're so passionate about it, right? You're like, you have to see this. Like, it was so good. And I think once I changed to feeling that way about everything I was selling, it wasn't like, hey, you should buy this. It was like, literally, you need this. Like, we need this. It was just like a huge shift. But
well, and I actually noticed that even when in the way that you were talking about the products in your description, even in your launches of how you were sharing about the thing. And I think that you don't want people to like the stuff they get from you, right? Like your mission is not like, oh, I want you to really like this. It's like, no, I want you to be obsessed with this. I want you to can't live without it. I want you to put it on, and you say like clothes that make you feel like you, right? And so when you're buying stuff that didn't make you feel like you, and this lesson can be taken, it can be taken from clothes to whatever it is that anyone is doing. But if you aren't buying things that make you feel like you, or how in the hell are you going to sell them? Right? It's like, you're like,
totally. Yeah. One of my favorite sayings is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
None of that like in between. I'm not sure. If you're not sure, it's a no.
Yeah.
We all know immediately if we like love something or want something or whatever. So just trusting my gut and leaning into that has been like literally life-changing. And also going back to like me, when I started Lala, it was like the girl boss era. It was very much like, who's your girl? Like, who's your shopper? And it was like, people in the boutique industry would teach you, like, you need to nail down your customer, to the point of like, her name is Jessica. She works a corporate job in New York. At the end of the day, she goes out for drinks with her friends, like whatever, it's like so specific. And I remember just like having such a hard time being like, who is my girl? And like, what is she doing? And like, it's just so funny because same thing, like right around the same time, I was like, my girl is me. Like
I was
it's
waiting for you to just flip your hair a little bit because I knew where you were going. And it's like, my girl is freaking me. And that's who it should be.
for everyone, right? Like a dude that works at a tire shop, his customer is probably him. You know, they love cars, they love tires. You with your podcast, like I guarantee a lot of the women who listen are like, you know, in the same kind of like place as you, or it's literally everything. It's so much easier to market
But they
to,
can't follow you if you're not following you.
yep, 1,000,000%. Yep. So
That's
it's
so
just like
good.
just like staying in my lane. Eventually I unfollowed all those other shops, like not out of like bad vibes, but purely out of like good luck to you. And like
Well, you like got control of the bobblehead, right?
and you, yeah, and you have to like once you get in your own lane and you're doing your own thing, you have to like protect your creativity. And we don't realize it, but maybe seeing something someone else is doing or whatever, something someone else is saying, like it like infiltrates your brain and like you might accidentally copy their vibe, or and I know it happens all the time, but so that's huge to me, is like I don't want to see what other people are doing because I want to like protect my little like creative bubble,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, my friend Jamie actually the other day said to me, she heard a quote that was something like, what prisons or the most dangerous prisons are the ones you don't know you're living in. And I actually think that that's a sort of prison when you are constantly watching and observing other people. You're not able to live in your own world. You're living in the prison of watching and paying attention and being stuck and like focused on what those people are doing.
That can even come back to social media. Like I noticed that the days maybe that I'm not working and I'm like checking my phone more, like I end the day feeling so gross. Like, why do I
Mm,
feel like this? You know, and it's like not that social media is bad, it's not at all, but you can't just be watching what everyone else is doing and just being
mhm.
like a
Consumer.
yeah, you can't just, you got to have
Mhm.
something, you have to have something that you're passionate about and you care about, and it doesn't need to be this huge like life-changing, earth altering thing. Because I think that's also been a thing that I've learned in business is you'll go to these conferences and people will be like, what's your why? What's your why? And like people are like, my why is to end child hunger. My
Yeah.
my why is whatever. And I remember like sitting there being like I feel so dumb because my why is literally just like selling people clothes they love. Like that's not like changing the world, you know?
Mm,
But it is. Yes.
but
And
it is, yeah.
I think that's just like a huge cool thing that I've also learned is like, and for other business owners, like you don't need this like crazy, like this huge Miss America, like why. It can just be you staying true to you and trying, you know, selling what you love. Like,
Well, that's exactly it right there, though, is that you wanted clothes that made you feel like you. You wanted to be dressed in things that made you feel like more powerful, more authentically yourself, more, whatever word, bold.
yeah,
And so as you put those clothes on, then you knew that it actually worked, right? That you, when you put it on, you're like, oh, this actually feels good. This feels
yeah,
exactly what I want to. And then you were able to vocalize how it made you feel. And then other people are like, oh, I want to feel like that too. And
yeah,
so then they get it. And so you have, I mean, you have endless amount of proof that your purpose is that and it works.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
What is
true.
it like when you get to see maybe someone who has struggled with confidence or struggled with knowing that they can show up fully as themselves or whatever it might be? I'm sure you get to see little glimpses and pieces of people every single day who have stepped into the belief that you give in the products that you sell. What is that like watching people do that?
I mean, I feel like it's just, and even it doesn't even have to be like business wise, right? Like
Yeah.
I have little sisters, and seeing them worry about what people think of them, or you know, neighbors or family, extended family members, like being worried what they're going to think about them, like I just, and you know, I used to be the same way. Sometimes I still like get caught up in that of like what people think about me, but it's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it's my life, and like why am I going to live
You're like,
my
what do
life?
I think about me?
Yes. And like, am I really going to like get to the end of my life and be like, I'm so glad that I made my aunt Barbara like super proud of me,
And I don't even think it's proud. I think it's comfortable. I'm so
Yeah.
glad I let Barbara be comfortable with me.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, anyways, it's a whole thing, right? Because as I've gone to therapy, I've learned that like me worrying what people think of me, it's not even like me doing what's best for that person. It's me trying to control the narrative of what people think about me, which is like kind of selfish. Like it's like a waste of my time and energy. And anyways, so that's a whole other thing. I highly recommend therapy, but it's just been nice to like be older than my siblings and be like, it's your life. Like if you're not happy and you're not excited about what you're doing, what's the point of anything? If we're not having fun, that's like my new thing too, because I spent 30 years of my life having anxiety and being worried. I'm like a firstborn. I'm like the exact firstborn that you imagine. Firstborn daughter, like perfectionist, people pleaser, the peacemaker my mom always called me. And it's been a lot of like unlearning, but
Like you are not responsible for everyone's peace.
and
You
how
are.
it feels. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally. And setting a good example and whatever, because that's been a hard one for me, is just feeling like I'm letting people down or whatever.
Like
But
what is even, yeah, no, that's so
literally,
fascinating. We could talk about that for 5 days. Yeah.
literally. So, anyways, I just think that's so important. So my new thing is like, am I having fun? And if it's a no, not that there's not fun things in business. Like obviously, like who thinks taxes are fun? And I did not think payroll was fun, but now my husband does it. So I think there's like a good place of being like, if I'm not having fun, what's the point? If you're
See, you know what is so
overall,
funny? Like payroll is so fun to me because I like to write little notes on there,
yeah,
like
I've
the.
seen
So
that.
I always try to make it feel fun. I could because that
Yeah,
was like my biggest fear was being responsible for like
yeah,
people's money and also not like what if I couldn't pay or what if I hired people and then all of a sudden I didn't have enough work for them and that was so I almost like didn't do it because of that. And so it is actually possible though to add fun to even the crappiest
well, and
work.
it's easy for you to do that too because you love what you're doing. You love what you're
Mm.
creating. You love what your team is helping you create. So it's just like that like big overarching picture of like everything I'm putting my energy to into, like, is it making me happy? And am I having fun?
Mm-hmm.
And
So what if you're not having fun? What do you do?
I think you need to figure out what's fun and what makes you happy. And like as sad as it sounds, like after I had Ozzy, I kind of didn't know. I kind of went through this stage where I'm like what is fun? I had postpartum depression and
That's
like
what I was just going to say. It's like after you have a baby, no one
yeah,
you can't even be prepared for the hormone flip and switch and
yeah.
whirl that you go through, right?
My doctor made me promise that I would go out with my friends once a week. And so me and my friends like turned it into this. We like named it Boss Babes Night Out, like as a joke. And every Wednesday night, like no matter what, we still do it to this day. Like we go and we have fun. And like, and I think it doesn't need to be like this big thing, like what's fun. It's just like laughing and being silly and like not taking everything so serious. So
Well, and honestly, I think anytime you're feeling like a wall or a block or something, you have to do something that's fun because, and it doesn't
like
have to be work. It's like, do you like to just dance in your kitchen? Do you like to go for a walk outside? Do you like to read a book? Do you like to paint? Do you like to, whenever anyone's stuck, I always say like, what's something fun that you can do? Because it drops those and also, and it puts us back into like a creative
yeah.
mind.
Yeah. And I really like, I've noticed lately how crazy it is that we like live in this digital world because I've seen people say lately, like, you know, that corn kid that like went viral for the corn song or whatever. He's like,
Oh, I don't know about that. Dang it. I'm
oh my God,
old and not cool anymore.
your kids will know. Have them show you.
They'll
He was,
know for sure.
it's
Yeah.
just like a song that he was just singing about corn. And he's like, this probably like 6 years old or something. But he went so viral and now he's like making money just because he sang a song about corn. And people are like upset, like people my age and older, that they're going to a 9 to 5 every day and working their butts off. And then this kid is going viral and making more money than them at age 6. And I was telling my husband, Matt, about that the other day, how like people, I've seen lots of like memes and stuff of people being annoyed. And he was like, who cares? Like, how cool is it? It's like, we can do anything and there's no rules. And I think that's really hard to wrap our minds around when we've been taught our whole lives that you go to college, you get a job, you work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and it's like, there's no rules to anything.
And there's
And
no promise of 65 retirement and living your best life. There's
no,
no promise to that.
yeah, and it's super sad. I feel like we keep seeing that more and more now, but it's just not, there's no rules. And especially now, like all you need is the internet to,
The
make your,
possibilities are endless.
yes, and you can make it look however you want it to look. So I think that's just a really cool thing too, is like you don't need to follow someone else's map or time frame or whatever. Like there's no rules, and you can literally do whatever you want to do, make however much money you want to make, work as much or little, work as little as you want, and there's no rules.
And do you want to know why you get to say that out loud? Because you're living it.
Yeah. But if you would have, and that might be like annoying. It's like, yeah, easy for her to say, but
No, but not
like
always, right?
no, like I started Lala on a $3,000 credit card. I had no money. Like my job I was working, my college degree job, I was making like 35,000 a year. Matt was in school. We were barely paying. We couldn't even make our credit card payments most months. But like I started it with $3,000 on a credit card that wasn't even mine. I still have that credit card to this day. My limit is a lot higher now, luckily. But it is possible. Like I didn't come from generational wealth. I never thought I would own a business. It wasn't something, people grow up sometimes and they're like, I'm going to start a business. Like I'm going to go to school for business. They don't know what business they're going to start. And it's funny because I feel like the more and more I've seen that, they end up graduating and not actually starting a business.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the game has changed. Like starting a business isn't just about like following what makes money. It's about following your passion. And it's
Right. I 1,000,000%. I agree. And I think that that's also what keeps people in like long term. The people start something because they think it's like a hot trend. They think that it can sell. It's what the people want. And then 3 years down the road, when they want something else, they're like, I don't even know who I am because I thought you really wanted hair ties for the rest of your life. I thought you really wanted, these hats or like whatever it might be. But people, if you're jumping on trend, you're going to have to jump from trend to trend to trend to trend. But when you step into the power of what your message and your branding and your purpose is, then that purpose follows you no matter where you are and it leads the way.
Yep, you don't have to look to anything else. You just if it's a hell yes, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Yep.
That's so good. I'm just so inspired by you always. I love watching the magic that you've created and also just the permission that you continually give to women and to teenagers and to whoever is buying your product or paying attention. Maybe they're not even a place where they can buy your product yet, and that's okay, but they can still like watch and learn and feel that energy that you're putting out there. And it is magnetic. It is amazing. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience.
Yes.
I can't wait to see where Lala goes because I know it's just going to continue to grow up and wide and everywhere. And I'm just like so proud of you.
Thank you for giving people a place to like come and like you have the best energy, you have the best advice. And like I feel like every time I talk to you, even if it's just through text, I can feel that. And it's
You're
just like
so nice.
it's such a like a good, your energy is like magnetic for sure. So
Thank you so much. Well, we do have to end the podcast with these questions that are super important to me because I am all about like the fire that keeps you going and moving and excited and having fun and also protecting peace so that we can continue going without like burning ourselves to the ground. So the first question is, what is something that is currently lighting your heart on fire?
honestly, like I would say, which is kind of unexpected for me, it's like motherhood. I just feel like it's given me such like a deeper purpose. And it makes me, like we were talking about earlier, it like makes me excited and proud to do what I'm doing for my child and my future children, that they can see me chasing my dreams, but also that I'm able to provide a life where like I am with Ozzy most of the time, and like I get to have fun and like take the week off and whatever. So
So
that
cool.
yeah, that's kind of an unexpected one, but just motherhood in general is inspiring me to do
Well, and
everything.
it's cool to see pieces of yourself that you haven't experienced yet, and I think that's part of
Yeah.
it is growth comes, it's like an evolution it's a continuing thing. And so maybe that's why it feels so cool and unexpected, is because like, wow, like I'm seeing parts of me that I've never experienced before. And this is
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's fun. Like that is something I never expected is like,
So
I
fun.
mean, he's 2.5, so he's like a fun age, but it's just fun. So that's like a
That's awesome.
wild but good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is something that you do to protect the peace of your soul?
I mean, we touched on this our whole conversation, but just like protecting my magic and not worrying about what other people are doing. And if I am not excited about it, because it's easy sometimes to get caught up in the like, well, this sold really well, so this should sell really well. But if I don't like it, I'm not going to do it. And so that's been like a really cool just concept to lean into, that like it doesn't matter what the reports say, it doesn't matter what the Pantone color of the year is. Like if I don't like it, I'm not doing it.
That's so good. Staying focused on your magic.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. We'll link the shop. We like you guys, you have to be following Lexi. You have to be wearing her clothes. Like they truly come with magic. They come with magic.
They're not for
Thank
everyone, but the people they're for, they love it.
Therefore, you're right.
Yep. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Yes.